Welcome to Mr. UFC Vegas Fight Club TV. I am Kyle, your host. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC on Fox 31. Iaquinta versus Kevin Lee. We're going to talk about the main event today. We're also going to give a free play and as well discuss our best bet play. That is 70% winner with all best bets coming on fighters minus 190 and below. We're having a great year in our best bet play. Really excited to talk about this card as well. We're going to finish off very strong with our best bet plays, our free plays, and everything else that's gone on. My goal was really to get over that 70% mark. We've been teetering on that 70% mark for quite some time this year, which is great also because we've basically been hitting 7 out of every 10 best bet plays. So we're really right on that mark. Having a good spot here to grab another victory, and as well as I have a best bet play that I'm very excited to talk about for the final event for UFC, and really excited for that entire card. A lot of great plays on that card, a lot of great fights on that card. But we will talk about right now is our free play. Our free play is on the co-main event between Edson Barboza and Dan Hooker. Now, this is one here where you're hearing a lot of people talk about this fight very differently. Some people are really adamant that Dan Hooker is going to go out there and just blow through Edson Barboza. And then some people are saying, Edson Barboza, you know what, he's an upper echelon guy, but he's been beaten pretty badly in his last 2 fights. So what does that put, and where does that put his mind frame? So to break down these guys right now, you've got Edson Barboza, who's 19-6. He's at plus 100 odds. And then you've got Dan Hooker, 17-7, and he's minus 110. I'm seeing minus 110 and even, minus 105 for Edson Barboza. So it's kind of teetering around those two, and always shop around and take a look at where some of these odds are going to be placed. But if you take a look at these two guys, now the big thing that's coming off for Dan Hooker is the fact that he's come off 4 straight victories. He's moved up in weight. He's looked very comfortable, and he's beaten some. When you beat someone like, Ross Pearson, and you beat somebody like, Jim Miller. Yes, they're journeymen. They've been in the UFC a very long time, but it definitely says something about him. And he goes out there and beats Gilbert Burns. So he's went out there and he's beaten some pretty good fighters, no doubt. But the big question for him is he ready for that elite? Is he ready for a striker of the caliber of Edson Barboza? Now, a lot of people took a look at Edson Barboza and they say, look at what he's done. He's on the downturn. Is this where he's really headed now? Is this the path to victory? And that's the big thing too. The question on Barboza's side is, what has those 2 losses with against Khabib Nurmagomedov and against Kevin Lee, what has that done to his psyche? What has that done to his mindset? Is he prepared to really move forward and put that behind him and continually look to make a title run? I mean, he's still a top 5 guy. He's been in this. I mean, I wrote down a couple of them. Over the last 5 years, Edson Barboza has faced Donald Cerrone, Michael Johnson, Paul Felder, Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis, Gilbert Melendez, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Kevin Lee. I mean, those are the last 5 years. Those are some really talented elite fighters up in there, and that he has always had to face them because he's always been that guy that's just, his skill set's fantastic. The way that he's able to snap those kicks. He's able to be very rangy with his kicks too, and that's something that is going to be very difficult for Hooker to really take a look at and really play defense on. But he has been able to push forward a lot. He's been able to finish a lot of fights early. He's been able to knock guys out. So it really puts it together with what do you really see in this fight. So again, going back, Hooker having that power is something to really be said about that. And I think that Hooker has an opportunity here to definitely do damage. But I think it's that first round that's where the damage is going to be coming from. I think that if really Barboza is able to kind of be calm in there, I think that he's going to be able to find some spots after that first round, because I think Dan Hooker is going to look for that finish again. I think that he's really falling in love with his striking. I think that he has looked great. But will he take the ground game and look to really incorporate that in here? Now, the big thing with Barboza is that Barboza, the path to victory for these last 2 fights has been elite grapplers taking you down and mauling you. Now, I don't really think, and I don't really put Dan Hooker into that mix of an elite grappler. Now, I think he's rising. He's kind of fit into the spot that he needs to fit into. But when you take a look at Barboza, Barboza's a high-volume guy. I mean, he definitely outputs a lot. He has those kicks where he can really level change with those kicks. And I think that's something that is going to be very difficult for Hooker to really take a look at. Hooker has fought a lot of slower guys, a lot of guys that really haven't had the skill set and really the weapons that Barboza has. So that's going to be something very different for a guy that has went out there and beat, Ross Pearson, Jim Miller, so he's beaten some guys that definitely are good. But when you take a look, people really forget how good Edson Barboza is. I mean, this is definitely a tough fight, but for me, I like the fact that it's a pick'em at this point. I think there's a lot of value on Edson Barboza at a pick'em against the guy who, yes, has looked good. And I think if he goes out there, to be completely honest with you, if Hooker goes out there and just runs through Barboza, I'm going to be on the Hooker train. I'm definitely be on the Dan Hooker train because at that point he really has shown he's ready to go. This is the right spot for him. I just think this is a very big step up for him. I think that the way that he's going to be able to throw combinations. Now, if you take a look at the way both of these two guys, their output, it's always been Barboza has always exceeded anything that Dan Hooker has really put out. And Hooker's very picky with his shots. I think that he's a little bit more where he wants to make sure he's going to be able to land. He's not very risky. Where Barboza goes out there, he's more of a one-shot, heavy shot kind of guy where he goes out there and he fires a hard, leg kick, fires a hard body kick, fires a hard head shot, and he snaps it with, lightning speed. He's able to snap it. And he's even got fast hands, which is something that people kind of overlook because Barboza has had so many highlight reel knockouts. You kind of forget that. But the big part here now is if you take a look at both of these guys over their MMA careers and what they've done when things have gone to a decision. Now, I lean more towards this going to a decision. I think that there's an opportunity here where I think Barboza, and I think, as much as it does sound like, it could be a finish because these guys both are dynamic strikers. But if it goes to a decision, now you take a look at both of these guys. Edson Barboza over his nine MMA professional fights that have gone to a decision, he's 7 wins and 2 losses. And Hooker, out of his 6 decisions in the UFC, he is 1 and 5. So to me, that's a telling sign. And I think for me, that's a big stat that comes out and shows and really backs up the stats that you're taking a look at when you talk about volume. And Edson is the volume guy. So if Hooker can't finish Barboza, I think that's where it's going to be a path to victory for Barboza to go out there and put the volume out, put the big strikes out, win some rounds, and go there and get the decision victory. Barboza knows this is a big one for him. Edson needs this victory after, again, he has fought some elite guys, but this is a very winnable fight for a guy that has a tremendous skill set, and I think overall, he's just able to go out there and outstrike him. I think that if Hooker can't go out there and land the big shot early, I think that it's going to be a long 3 rounds, and it's going to be Barboza really going out there and picking him apart. I like the odds. I think that right around the plus 100. I've seen even plus 105, and then I've seen certain ones it's minus 110, minus 110. But I think right around that plus 100, plus I think anywhere to pick him is great value on a top 5 guy that has proven that he's a great fighter. And I just think again, he's a victim of circumstance where he's fought such great fighters, and it really downgrades how good Barboza is. So again, if Hooker goes out there and he just obliterates Barboza somehow, I really will be interested to see where Hooker goes and how comfortable now he is really developing within this division. But I put Barboza in a spot. I'm going to be betting Edson Barboza as my free play, and as I always say, out of my allotted money per event, 80%, 85% is on my best bet play. That I do have up on Wagertalk right now for purchase. And then my free play, I'm doing, I'm mixing up that last, 20% roughly for my free play, parlays that I like, and I'm going to talk about the main event. That's something that I want to put a little bit of money on as well. So we will now get into that. But that is the free play, Edson Barboza at roughly plus 100 to defeat Dan Hooker. And that is the co-main event. Now, quickly, I just want to go over the main event, because I actually think this is a very intriguing kind of thing. And again, I'm hearing, the talking heads kind of going both sides, where a lot of people are, hey, Iaquinta, he's got a chance to really do something here. You know, get another win over Kevin Lee. He beat Kevin Lee. It was Kevin Lee's debut. So there's a little bit of a storyline here. Plus with plus with Al facing Khabib and making it through the 5 rounds. So there's been a lot to be said about the fact that Al made it through 5 rounds. My conspiracy theory on this is really when you take a look at what happened here. Now, you know, Iaquinta and Khabib, this was a day before the fight. Khabib had, you know, he was supposed to fight all kinds of people, and, you know, Ferguson, and then it was Max Holloway, and then all of a sudden it's Iaquinta, and literally Khabib is saying, just put somebody in there. I want to fight for the title. Conor vacated this title. We need to get and even Dana White, we need to get this belt around somebody, and it just can't be vacant at this point because we literally just stripped Conor McGregor of this title. So they really pushed for it. But I think the big part of this is if you take a look at this fight. Now, I rewatched this fight. I had to rewatch it again because I wanted to see what my initial reaction was when I was watching this fight. And if you take a look, in that first round, second round, you know, it was all Khabib. I mean, it was dramatically all Khabib. I mean, Khabib really went out there and I believe could have finished Al early in that fight. I think there were spots in there where Khabib was in such a dominating position. I mean, there was even a spot where it was middle of a round. Khabib was on his back, had Al basically laying flat out on the ground on his stomach. Khabib's on the back of him. I mean, that's the end of any fight for Khabib. I mean, or Khabib will just literally beat the crap out of you until you give up. So, I mean, it was such a good spot for him where he could have actually really finished the fight. But I think that Khabib wanted to really test himself a little. I think he wanted to do some stand-up. I think that's how good Khabib Nurmagomedov is. I think he allowed the fight to go longer. I know that may sound crazy to some people that he's kind of toying with Al, but I really think that there was 2 rounds, maybe the 3rd and 4th round, he didn't even attempt a takedown. I mean, there wasn't even, and he was dancing and he was doing this was something you never see Khabib do. That's not what he does. I think that he's definitely elevating there, as you saw in the McGregor fight, but I think he really wanted to get some rounds in. And I think he had a lot of respect also for Al taking that fight on such short notice, and he knew, listen, if Al doesn't take this, nobody takes this, and there is a huge problem now happening with that belt. And I think Al stepping up, and he, you know, definitely was a gangster kind of move, stepping up, taking that fight against such a killer like Khabib. But the whole reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of people really give Al so much credit on that fight. Now, yes, I think he did well. I think he did well for what he was given in a 1-day, notice, and he was training for a 3-round fight. And this is a 5-round fight. I mean, all those things considered, Al did tremendous. But I think, you know, Khabib kind of let this go on a little bit. So if you take a look at that fight, and people put a lot of emphasis on that, I really don't think that was that great of a showing for Al. I mean, Al was getting peppered with shots. He was getting jabbed to death. I mean, there was even standing. Yes, Al had some highlights, but people got so excited when Al landed 1 shot on Khabib. People went nuts. And if you look at the stats, it was dominating all around for Khabib. So it was just the fact that when Khabib gets hit, people start to, oh, he got hit. You know, it's almost like the Tyson era. When Tyson got hit, you go crazy. But he'll go out there and he dominated those 5 rounds against Iaquinta. So I didn't mean to get on a ramble there, but it's just so much that has been said about that fight lately because Al's going to be fighting. But back to what I'm talking about. So that was that with Al. But you take a look at Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee has been elevating consistently throughout every fight. And now I wasn't a real big believer in him. I actually had bet him against Chiesa. And I was a little nervous. Wasn't really sure if I liked the play, but I ended up betting Kevin Lee. And as he continues to fight, you've really just seen him get better and better and better. And I was at the fight with Kevin Lee versus Edson Barboza in Atlantic City. If you want to take a look at my trip at Atlantic City, me and my wife went down there. drank a lot, had a good time, won both of our bets, which we bet Kevin Lee as the best bet, and we also bet Frankie Edgar to defeat Cub Swanson. Had a nice 2-0 night there. But if you want to take a look, it's in my on my page. Take a look at it. You can watch the very entertaining video. But that fight there, if you take a look, Kevin Lee versus Edson Barbosa, that was a close odds fight. People were not sure really how good Kevin Lee was, and he went out there, outstruck, outfought, ground and pounded, mauled basically the same way that Khabib did, and he looked impressive. And I think the big thing at Kevin Lee is that he's really athletic. He is overly athletic, and he's trying to be that new breed of a fighter where you're not just one way or the other way. I know it's mixed martial arts, you got to be good at both, but he's really, I think, exceeding a lot of that. And you add in the fact that he's going to have, in this fight, he's going to have roughly a 6-7 inch reach advantage, and he's going to be quicker, stronger, faster, I believe, than Iaquinta. I think, yes, it's minus 300 to plus 250 on Al. I honestly, I'm going to be parlaying Kevin Lee with a lot of things because that's how, I'm going to straight bet it too, but I really believe that there is a great chance that Kevin Lee goes out there and puts on a show. I think that he knows that this is a fight that he wants to avenge. Al, I think, is a tough fighter, no doubt, but this is just another level. I think Kevin Lee goes out there, and I think he literally blows right through him. I think it's going to be a very lopsided win for Kevin Lee, so the odds aren't great on this fight, but I also believe that Kevin Lee should go out there and dominate. And again, a win is a win, so you pull something out, you're still going to win some money back, even if you parlay it, and I'm kind of looking at parlaying this with my best bet play, and kind of leveraging some of those odds, so really helping me out there, but I really like Kevin Lee to defeat Al Iaquinta in the main event. And there you have it. That is the prediction show for UFC on Fox 31. And again, our best bet for the year, 70% winner. We are plus 25.15 units for the year. Gonna finish off strong. Any way you look at it, this has been a fantastic year for the best bet play. Really excited to finish this out, finish out the year, and we'll keep it moving. So this is Mr. UFC Vegas, Fight Club TV.